Hi, everyone. This is Travis Clark with the new podcast, No Off Season. This is episode 2, and I'm sitting down here with Emiria Salzmann, who is a former and now current again college soccer coach, as well as a real estate agent, kind of jack of all trades a little bit. And how are you doing today, Emiria?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've been excited about hosting this one, for a
I've
couple
been
days. I
excited to
know.
talk with you.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where did you start and kind of up into where you're at right now?
Well, I've been a soccer coach for, I think, 29 years now.
Hmm.
I've coached at the semi-pro D1, D2, junior college, high school, club levels. Um, I actually got pulled into coaching, kicking and screaming right out of college because I still wanted to play. So I was like, gosh, I don't want to coach, but I didn't have to have a 9 to 5 job. So I started coaching right out of college when I was 21. And recently I was at Sonoma State for 15 years, and then they cut the athletics department there.
Hmm.
And that's when I really decided to go into real estate and, try this new career. I do also currently work at a junior college at College of Marin, and I also do soccer consulting.
Yeah, kind of like I said, jack of all trades.
Well,
It's
and master of none, is that how it goes?
yeah, yeah. Um, well, cool. I mean, I have a couple questions for you. This podcast is, about things that, people do in their current jobs or businesses, leadership traits, those types of things that might, if you're a engineer, that might transfer into real estate. If you're a real estate agent, something that might transfer into coaching, or right.
Mhm.
And so kind of these transferable type skills is a lot of what we talk about. And then also one of our main traits, right, is just, grinding, work rate, those types of
Right,
things, and how those things are necessary in a very competitive business like we're in now.
right, right.
So I used to be the head women's soccer coach at Cal State San Bernardino, and that's kind of how we first met. And I
Yes.
was talking to you before we got started about when I saw you the
Yeah.
first time. And I was recruiting at a junior college game. It was San Bernardino Valley Junior College versus Santa Rosa Junior College in the state championship game. And I know this is painful for you to
Very
talk about,
painful. I don't know why you brought this up, and we
but
did get robbed that game.
here's I one of the best players I ever coached at Cal State San Bernardino was playing in that game, and her name was
Yeah,
Jensen Keith, and she was the center back, and she ended up being the center back on my San Bernardino team that went really far. Also,
yeah,
you had the two Curtin sisters
right.
on that team who ended up being
Yes,
All Americans at Sonoma State. So there was just a lot
right.
of talent on that field. Those weren't the
Yeah,
only three. There were other ones for sure.
right.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I told you today, like, that was the first time I even saw you, right?
Yeah, and I
Um,
didn't even know until today that you were there. I don't
yeah,
You might have said it to me at some point, but I didn't even remember that that's the first time that maybe we or
yeah,
you
and
you
then
had,
and then
we
a
kinda
couple,
crossed paths.
yeah, and then a couple years later, we're like competing against each other, right?
Right.
And so, yeah,
Yes.
cool. Um, so I have a couple questions, and for the listeners here, I am going to read them just because I have 6 questions for Amiria, and she has such a depth of knowledge that I wanted to make sure that I
Uh-huh.
treated it to the level at which Amiria deserves. And so,
No.
um, you kind of never really know someone till you compete against them, right? And
Right.
this is kind of where you and our relationship started. Back when I was at San Bernardino, you were at Sonoma State. One thing
Mhm.
I recognized about us both is just like the level of grind that we had, right?
Mhm.
We both had these programs that basically had no scholarships and no real business winning kind of at the level that we did. And we'll talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit probably as we go through. But
Right.
what is it about those kind of head to head battles you think that made us kind of both realize
Yeah.
that we see the game kind of similar. I mean, at least from
Right.
a work rate and kind of a level. And building kind of the mutual respect that we had for
Right.
each other. We competed against each other, you know, and then you were my boss at Sonoma State. I was your assistant coach for 2 years at Sonoma State, and then now you kind of work for me in real estate. It's crazy
Yeah.
how that circle has
Yeah.
went all around. But I
Yeah.
mean, what are your thoughts on, you know, kind of the mutual respect and
Right.
that we had in coaching that's going to lead to being successful in real estate?
Well, like recognizes like, right?
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of times when you're in a competitive environment, right, the relationship is, it's more confrontational, not confrontational as like yelling at each other, but like we're both trying to win, right?
Yeah.
And we're in a heated environment because we have teams and we want to go far, and our whole like identity and all of every decision we make is to move that team forward. And I didn't realize at the time that we were going to become friends because first of all, you were in Southern California, I'm in Northern California,
Yeah.
right? So um but what I think the difference was with you, because I've obviously coached so long, there's many colleagues, but where we became friends and working partners was you were always so gracious about my team. You always, even though games are heated, winning, losing, whatever, you never took that off the field, and sometimes people do that, like they make judgments about you or they don't like you because of that situation. And you were always very gracious and very respectful. And I started coaching when I was 21. I was very young. There weren't a lot of female coaches. There
Yeah.
weren't a lot of mentors. And I think a lot of my coaching life was always trying to prove myself or taking criticism because I was an assertive person and I was dominating in what I wanted to do. I was very focused. And a lot of times people criticize that about me. But
Yeah.
actually, what you thought is you saw the value and the strength in that, and you had a lot of humility to do that, to reach out, to talk to me, to show that respect. And I haven't always experienced that. And so I was like, wow, like he genuinely respects what I'm doing. Like he sees what I'm doing. Right. And that was a real interesting thing for me to experience. It was very healthy for me to experience that. And so then when it came time to work with you or work for you, I think you might have been the only one that could have really convinced me to do it because I had such a respect for your success and everything you do and the way you look at the world. We look at the world very differently, but
Hmm.
I learned so much on how you look at the world. And then for you to say, I think you can be great at this, it's
Yeah.
like, wow, like getting that seal of approval from someone that you've known and respected, but also respects you.
Yeah.
There's a genuine, like, we've been in the trenches. And it
Yeah.
was like, I think knew each other 15 years before I even started working with you.
Yeah.
So there was a genuine trust. Like I trust that you have my best interest and that what you see in me is valid. And that I trust that by working alongside you, I can be good at
Yeah.
this next chapter of my life.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit before we got on the call, but so I got out of coaching 7 years, 8 years ago, like being
Right.
as a head coach, and got into real estate and started doing really well in real estate and couldn't
Right.
really get back into coaching. We have these conversations all the time. And then
Right.
I gave you a call and I'm like, hey, I'm interested in volunteering for you at
Right.
Sonoma State. And so you have
And
this
I was like,
former
really?
Division 1 head coach, right? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Sonoma is an hour and 15 minutes away, so
Right.
3 hours of driving a day. And there were a lot of people that were like, why do you want to do that? Like, you're doing
Right.
so well in real estate. I mean, every time you go up there, you're taking a day of lead generation away, right? And I just wanted to share with all the people that are watching, like, the why. Like, why did I do that? I
Yeah.
consider myself a lifelong learner. I'm always
Right.
trying to learn from other people and take little pieces of what they do and add it to what I do. And
Mhm.
my experience competing against you and understanding how hard you worked, what your level of grind was, your ability to consistently be successful over a
Mhm.
long period of time, you know, it's like, you know what? I'm going to go up there and I'm going to see it firsthand for a whole season, right? And then
Okay.
I'm going to see what pieces of it can I take and make my real estate business better. And I want people that are listening to this to understand, if you're in real estate, you don't always have to go to real estate school, right?
Right.
Or real estate classes, right? You
Right.
could go to a Tony Robbins kind of a
Right.
conference, right? You could go to an engineering conference or a book club or something. There are always different places that you can learn. And one
Right.
thing that I have learned in this business is, if you really want to be successful in this business, you need to surround yourself with people at your level, right?
Right.
And although you haven't done many transactions yet, you're at the
Mhm.
beginning stages. You are
Right.
at my level, right? In a lot of things that are going to translate into real estate. And so I want people to understand that, go out and seek knowledge. Get in
Right.
your car and drive an hour and a half one way to find out how this woman can be successful continuously at a school that you probably shouldn't be successful at with the resources that they had. And then, what pieces of that could I sprinkle onto my real estate business? And I just wanted the readers to understand, or the watchers of this to understand, that there are other
Mhm.
ways to learn. And
Yes.
I know you'll talk about that a little bit as we go. So
Yes.
kind of wanted to say
Well,
that
that's a
story.
high compliment, and thank you for saying that, and I really appreciate, like, you considering me somebody worthy of, being around and taking your time, in that way. It's really, I'm greatly, appreciative of your compliment.
When I was coaching with you and I'd talk to other coaches in the CCA, like I'd call
Mm.
Mark at San Bernardino, he was
Yeah.
my assistant. And,
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, we're coming down to San Bernardino." And he's like, "Ugh." Like, you know, that was kind of the response of everybody, like, having to play Sonoma, right?
Oh,
And,
wow,
like,
okay.
and this leads
Okay.
to the next question, right? Which is, I kind
Right.
of have written down as like the Sonoma DNA, like
Right.
when you were the coach there, right? And
Right.
could you explain a little bit about the Sonoma DNA and what
Right.
made your team successful, and how some of those things you might be injecting into your real estate business as well? And so, yeah, if you
Right.
could tell me a little bit about what it was
Okay.
like to be a Sonoma player and coach,
Yeah.
and how that's gonna
Right, because I
go into
played
your.
for Sonoma State
Yeah,
too, so,
exactly.
well, I can't say anything about that unless I talk a little bit about how I got to Sonoma State. So,
Yeah,
I was in high school, I graduated when I was 16. Sonoma State had won the national championship with Peter Renault. So they were the talk of the town. I mean, it was like the national team existed at Sonoma State. They were that
yeah,
good. Peter Renault comes to see me play in high school and he tells my coach, she's good, but I don't think she's ready. And of course I didn't think anything of it, because I was young and I was one of 8 children and we didn't know, how to get me to college, and or even that college soccer was really a viable option, because this is a long time ago, right?
yeah,
So anyway, I go 1 year to the junior college, Santa Rosa, where I also eventually coached. And I joined, I used to play all the time, pickup classes, men's classes, anything, men's leagues. I joined this Sunday night women's league. This women's team asked me to play. And so Peter's running this league, right? So I go and I'm playing every Sunday for like 3 months. And you would have to tell me sometimes you have to get off the court because I was like scoring too many goals.
yeah.
I had no shame. I was
Just
like, if I could have 8 goals, I was no shame. I had no understanding of like, of paring down a little bit. So the last week of class, Peter pulls me aside. This is like celebrity status level Peter, right? And he says, "Hey, have you ever considered playing at Sonoma State?" And literally in that one moment, I remember where I was standing. My whole life changed. my whole life changed. So I had to transfer out of the junior college after 1 year, went to Sonoma State, and there were still the players that won the national championship. And I got a beat down. I was a red shirt. I had no idea that a coach could push that hard, say those things to you, that the girls would push that hard. I got bloody noses, ripped shirts. I got knocked out in training once for challenging the top, person on the team in the header challenge, knocked me out. And it was absolutely frightening and liberating all at the same time because I didn't know that all the things that were in me, other people existed at that level. And so I had to change my life, the way I trained, my friendships. I had asthma. I had to figure out, how do I compete at this level with asthma, right? And also, I was terrified every day of going to practice. And Peter was so frightening, but also so well respected. When I was hired at Sonoma, they were not winning. And
Yeah.
so when they hired me, it was like, oh my God, I get a chance to try to return this program to the glory, to how I used to feel about it. And
Yeah.
so it became a mission. It wasn't a job, it was a mission. And every single day that I went out, I remember Peter, or I remembered the player I played with and how they demanded so much of me. And I brought that with me to Sonoma State. And I think because it was Sonoma State is why there was a special thing to it, because Sonoma State has succeeded in many programs for no reason. There's no logical reason why a lot of
Mhm.
these programs should be winning.
Correct.
And they did because a lot of people stayed and they played. There were a lot of former players, or there was just this element of like, we just refused to think of ourselves in any way less than capable. Like, we knew we were smaller. We knew we didn't have a lot of money. We knew all those things, but we were so proud of where we were from and what we were and what we would do that it just, that trumped all. And
Yeah.
so that conviction, it's infectious. Just like bad attitudes are infectious. You surround yourself with people with bad attitude, you're going to get a bad attitude. You seek negative information, you're always going to get a negative information. But at Sonoma, there was this attitude, we can win, we can succeed, and that was infectious. So
Yeah.
I felt that no matter what the challenges were, I could still be successful, and that's why I just didn't see it any other way.
Yeah. You kind of leading into a question that I have, and I'll add a little bit of context to it. But
Okay.
the CCAA back when I was coaching in it and you were coaching in
Hmm.
it, it definitely was way more competitive than it is now. No knock on the CCAA right now, but in
Right,
2013 and 14 at San Bernardino, you had Kiana Corals,
right,
Jasmine Williams, Jensen
right.
Keith, like players like that, right? Katie Gagner, Melania Aguayo, right? Your school, I mean, you had Margie, you had the Curtin sisters,
Yeah,
Gabe Bolden's team at Stanislaus was just stacked, right? With
right,
Karen A. Demery, I mean, maybe the best, most effective Division II player that I've ever seen, right?
right.
And then you
Yeah,
also
she was
had,
amazing.
yeah, and then you also had, UC San Diego was in the
Right.
conference at the time, and so
And then also LA, we were
yeah,
talking about the 2, Swedish girls, I think.
yeah,
They were
geez,
incredible.
I mean, there was
Yeah.
no easy game, right? And
No, no.
um, so why I wanted to lead with that is the difficulty of being successful in the CCAA. Like
Yeah.
I had a couple of really good seasons, right? But the thing that I really admire about you is just understanding how hard the CCAA is and how you were able to, once you took over that program, you were able to like maintain this like really high level of success, like multiple championships in a row, multiple NCAA tournaments at a school that, you were maybe the lowest funded program in the whole conference, right? And so what the question I have for you is, what are some of the things that enabled you to be
Mhm,
successful over a long period of time at Sonoma that you might
mhm.
transition into, this new phase of your life and business?
Well, the first thing was we never made any excuses. Um, so we had core values. Our number one core value was we do not whine. That was just number one. So, when we had to train on the field and there was goose poop everywhere, we
Yeah.
made that a strength. It was like, oh, okay, this is like the Sonoma aroma. We would joke about it. The girls would have to
Sonoma
go to
aroma.
class, Sonoma aroma. The girls would have to go to class, with not being able to shower because they had to run to class from training. And we made it like we could play anywhere. Like we can play in any weather, anywhere, anytime. So instead of looking at it like a negative, we looked at it as like, God, we can do this. We're able to do this. I think just, what's funny? I think a little bit now it's only in hindsight that I see things as they truly are, right? I never
Right.
see them that way in the moment. When I was at Sonoma, I couldn't understand why we weren't winning everything. It never occurred to me that I had less access to resources, less recruiting. I was recruiting a lot on my own dime, less recruiting money, less scholarship money, less facilities, less ability to travel. Right? I didn't see it that way. I
Yeah.
was just seeing it as, oh yeah, well, we could still win. Like, okay, but we could still
No,
win. I
no
never really
excuses, right?
understood the gravity of that in it, because I just always, like, for myself, the minute I make an excuse, I feel less than. But
Yeah.
if I can, but it's a challenge for me. Like if I see the challenge, I'm like, well, I'm going to win anyway. Right. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm still going to win, then it fuels me and it brings out the best in me. And I think that's me as a player. The more you challenge me, the better I get.
Yeah.
Right. I like that. And as a coach, so many good coaches and teams in the, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to be one of them, so I just didn't see the challenges in the same way that I see them now, and the experiences that I've gone through, especially with a lot of the rule changes now and the way things have shifted and the mentality of the player is different, right? I didn't see it until I left.
Right.
So I think that is part of just not making excuses. Yes, there's going to be challenges, and we all have something that's going to keep us, maybe I'm not going to be the top agent in the country, but I can still be very successful, right? Like, you know, I don't know. I just don't, yeah, sometimes I can get down about something, but I don't think I have it in me to let it beat me. And I
Yeah.
think that mentality was what was in our program. Like we never talked about stuff like that. We never talked about, it wasn't until later that those conversations began to happen because there was a real inequity in certain things, right? It wasn't until later, but when I got there, we never talked about the limitations. We
Yeah.
just always were like, well, why can't it be? We had something written on our speed ladder and it said, if not now, when? If not who, if not us, then who? And
Nice.
it was like, you choose. Why not
Yeah.
now and why not us?
Yeah.
And
No, I love
that
that.
was sort of that mentality. And so I think about that too now. Like, I'm older now, I'm going into a new career, and there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be successful at this in a lot of ways. I'm a single mom, and it's hard to make a transition. But then I think, why not me?
Yeah.
Like that's the mentality. Why not me? And I am willing to put the work in that it requires to be successful.
I spent 2 years coaching with you as an assistant coach, and you and Crystal Luna and Hyro. And
Yeah.
one thing that I'll, just giving you a little bit of credit here that, I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but I love the no excuses thing. I mean, there are a lot of agents in this field that kind of have excuses all the time, right? But the other thing I think
Mm-hmm.
that you did really well, which is one of the reasons why I drove up there to spend time with you in this environment, was just how
Mm-hmm.
competitive you are, right? How relentless you
Yeah.
are with things, and then the third thing is the non-negotiable standards that you have in order to play on this team, right? And
Right.
like if you could talk about that really quick, because I think that's one of the things that
Right.
will also translate into this business for you as well.
Right. Um, well, I think our core values, we lived and died by those values.
Yeah.
The players had to memorize those values. And, number one was we do not whine. That was just a non-negotiable. Like if someone was saying something that was in a whining tone, we would say, don't whine. And they would
Mhm.
just check themselves. I remember one time I was complaining about something, and one of my players goes, don't whine. And I was like, okay, all right. Like
Yeah.
touche. It was for everybody. It was coaches, players. Number two was we work hard. And number three is we are well led. So we don't
Yeah.
whine, we work hard, and we're well led. Never is that negotiable. In fact, I let players go because they didn't conform to our core values. The core values were non negotiable, and we had 12 of them. So they all knew them by the time, they were sophomores, juniors, seniors. They had been memorized. We used examples of them. We would do shout outs on core values. And I think I actually think players like that level of discipline. They like to know what the rules are. This is how it is, right? It's the same with a child. Children do better with that discipline. Like they just need to know what are the parameters from which I can behave. Doesn't mean that they don't press against them. They do. The players pressed against them all the time, but we still stick to that. And I think when you do that, they learn to trust you.
Yeah,
And
I just wrote down three things, right?
okay,
And I've kind of like pulled this out of what you were talking about because I'm trying to find things that will connect us to business as well. And
right,
I think, the idea of structure, systems, and standards, right? And
right,
the use of your core values, right? To create this culture and this, like
right,
everyone rowing in the same direction kind of a
right,
thing. And I think, you could admit that, the teams that you had that were the best, right?
right.
You had enough of those players
Yes,
that were doing those things that were in
yes.
line with what your expectations were. And the same is going to apply in your real estate business as well. I mean, you're going to have to follow structure, systems, and standards,
Right,
and you're going to have to push through. And once you start doing really well, you're going to be surprised how many of the lessons that you learned in real estate,
right,
I mean, in coaching, that are going to translate into real estate, right?
right.
And I would definitely say anyone watching this, whatever field you're in, listen to what Emiria is saying, these things that she was using to drive her program. A lot of these things and ideas are going to help her be successful in this new field because it's, structure, systems, standards, no excuses. These are the things so far that you've talked about that I've taken notes
Yeah,
on.
and I will tell you this, and in all honesty, I've struggled to create the structure in real estate because it's so foreign to me right
Yeah.
now, right? And but I seek it. Like I
Yeah.
want that structure. You've been, it's taken me a while to really commit to real estate, and you've been like, hey, listen, you just got to do it, and I'm like, well, I got this going on, and I've got this going on. And so it's not that it's not that it's in me 24/7 every second minute of the day, but it's what I know to be true about successful behavior.
Yeah.
So once I get my system down and once I get, how I'm operating down, I will not stray from that. And I think it's also important to note when it came to our core values, it had nothing to do with winning. It had
Yeah.
everything to do with behavior, how you treat
Yeah.
people, right? How you show up to the team and to
Yeah.
the game. And so like we never talked about winning. We talked about our core values. We talked about how we do things. Then winning was the end product. And I think that's also important. I've had to remind myself in real estate because I'm like, well, I want this. I want the end result, but the way I go about that has to be embedded in just the way you behave as a professional, right? How you treat people, right? That you're doing things ethically. that you're communicative. Like communication, I think
Yeah,
is
it is.
everything. So
Yeah.
being a good communicator, and then also growing yourself, because you have to have a voice. Like you say, you have to have a voice for every player in the room. You can't only be speaking to the top players. You can't only be speaking to the bottom players, right? You have to be able to reach every player in the room. And so true of real estate. You're going to meet anybody, like any adult from young to old in any phase of life with all sorts of desires and all sorts of financial capabilities, and having that perseverance and that, and also that care for the client, that you want the same for a client, whether it's the biggest deal you've ever had or the smallest deal you've ever had.
Yeah.
It's very similar in coaching. You have to care about the player that's just struggling to get through training in the same way as your top player who's an All-American and going to be a professional,
Yeah.
right? The care has to be the same.
Yeah, and it's like these three S's, right? Structure, systems, standards. It leads me to like a quote that I say to people in my coaching program all the time, and I live by this every day when I'm making a decision on what I want
Mhm.
to do, right? And so it's either you do it or you don't, and if you don't, someone else will. And
Right,
I want you to understand that as you're moving forward in this business, right? That it's such a competitive business, right?
right,
Like, am I going to make that phone call? Am I going to knock on that door? Am I going to
right,
follow up with this past client? Am I going to mail this flyer? If you don't, someone else will. And
right,
and so I think some of the things and the system and the structure and the standards, like what you said, some of my systems weren't even about winning,
right,
right? My core values weren't about winning. Those were structures and standards, right? And
right,
you either do that or you don't. And if you don't, Gabe's going to. You see what I mean?
right,
And
exactly.
so I think
And
that's
I was
one of the
always so afraid of that. Like
yeah,
if I drop here, Gabe's gonna win.
exactly.
Brian's gonna win. Travis
Yeah,
is gonna win. You
yeah,
know, Isabel at the time, she's gonna win. And I was like so afraid of not paying attention to every detail,
yeah.
because I
So the
didn't want to
last,
get caught, or not that I was above anybody, but I just didn't want to
yeah,
leave any question of that I did everything I could.
yeah. No, I think you did an amazing job.
Well, you're very
The
kind.
last question that I have here is you're moving, we're transitioning from like division 2 or division 1 level college coaching
Mhm.
into a new field. What are a couple of the non-negotiables that you have in your life or while were a coach that you're going to move into like your daily life in real estate?
Right. Well, um, I guess just as a human being, I'm always going to do everything to the end. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like if I know it needs to be done, I'm going to
Yeah.
get it done, right? If I didn't get it done and I didn't know, I'm going to do everything I can to, why didn't I get that? Well, how did I not know? And learn and grow. I think learning and growing throughout life. I think I've been very fortunate to be in a college community for most of my coaching life, because young people, they are so unafraid of change, and you know what I mean, they are innovative, they rally, they protest, they, I think being around young adults keeps you young and keeps you open minded to things, whereas I think as a young person myself, I was very rigid and my beliefs and everything. I'm not that way now. And in fact, my whole worldview has changed
Yeah.
about life and all sorts of things. So I love to learn and I love to grow and I like to be good at things. And so I've had to adapt enough in my life that that I can adapt to new challenges. The other thing is just having humility. Like I'm
Yeah.
doing work now that, it's not completely related to any transaction, but it's
Yeah.
what a good real estate agent does for their client. And so I treat it with the same respect as if these things that I'm doing are going to, lead to the paycheck.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what do I need to do? Show me what it is that I need to do to be as good as you. And I
Yeah.
want to know that. And I don't have an ego about that. I
Yeah.
don't. come in, with my own expectations about how things should be. I listen. If someone's not happy, I want to know why. How can I fix that? Like what can I do better? And I think, and that's how I am in my outside life too. Like I don't always read real estate things I do, and do all that. But most of the stuff that I'm doing is growing myself, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's reading an article. It's like, oh, I had a question about this. And so I Google it because I want to read more about it. And it develops me, even as a parent, the way I'm
Yeah.
growing and changing as a parent to my son, all of being willing to recognize where you can be better and just grow yourself, I think in general makes for a more developed human being. And if you're dealing with other people, that influence goes very far. They will remember you, your energy, how you treated them. And I think I'll always be that way.
Yeah.
And I also realize the importance of like taking time out for myself and
Yeah.
making sure that I'm caring for my health, my body, the way I eat, exercising. A lot of times I put myself on the back burner. And I one day I wake up and look in the mirror and I'm like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. Like I feel so far away from who I think I am, right? And now I make sure that I'm doing the things that keep me healthy mentally, spiritually, and physically. And
Yeah.
I think that's a non-negotiable now for me, where it used to be something that was like, if I have time. It's
Yeah.
not that way anymore.
Yeah. I was taking notes while you were talking, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
always someone that is always trying to learn, and hopefully people that are listening to this, if you could take one thing that either one of us said and apply it to your
Mhm.
business, I think it might help. So, recap some of the stuff that Amiri and I were talking about. We talked about structure and standard and systems as those things being important as you're moving from whatever business you were in before. Also, if you were in a different business before you got into sales or real estate, what traits can you use from your previous job or life that transitions into real estate? And Amiria, some of the things that she talked about was, no excuses, right?
Mhm.
The importance of self-care, right, before anything else, right?
Mhm.
She talked about continuous learning, which in Keller Williams, that's one of Gary Keller's 6 personal
Yes.
perspectives. I teach a
Yeah.
class about continuous learning. Also doing things all the way to the end, like don't quit halfway through, right? She talked
Right.
about humility, the importance of relationships, and then the importance about maintaining and continuing, high standards if you want to be successful, in the college environment and or in the real estate environment,
Right.
because some of the people you're competing against in this business are pretty high achievers. And so
Yeah.
I really appreciate our conversation, Amiria. It's really great. As you know, I mean, I was taking notes on a manila envelope, and I'm probably going to figure out a way to weave some of this stuff into the classes that I teach. And I'm excited to watch you grow your business, and I'm going to be really excited for that day when you potentially catch and pass me in real estate.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I would love to do that, but you are pretty elite. So
well, you got to have a.
you are very special at what you do. You really are.
I had a standard bearer in real estate that I'm currently chasing. You chase me, and if you pass me,
Yes.
I'm going to chase you. I think we're just really competitive people, and so I
Yeah.
think we can collaborate and work together, but we're also, I think, going to push each other as we go through. And so
Right.
I am going to put Amiria's contact information in the podcast link at the bottom. Emiria lives in the North Bay area, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, up in that area.
Mhm.
And so if you have any real estate needs up there, please reach out to her. Also, if you want to play junior college soccer, right? She
Yes.
she coaches a
Yes.
junior college soccer team. If you're a young player, freshman, sophomore, junior year, whatever in
Yep.
high school, and you want some advice on the college process and how that
Right.
works, Amiria and Tina Estrada have started a business to help young student athletes go through that as well. And I'll have all that information when the podcast posts.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, Emiria, it was really great talking to you. I look forward to all of our future conversations, which, to be
Yes.
honest, are like daily, I think.
Yeah, which
And
will probably be later tonight.
yeah, we'll have one tonight about something. And I really hope you have a great rest of the day. And I hope some people take some of the ideas that you gave today and weaves them into their business.
Thank you for having me, Travis. And honestly, it's just an honor to even be sitting on the podcast with
No,
you. But I just want to thank you publicly for always believing in me and seeing the best in me and always choosing to see those qualities about me that are bold and assertive as strengths. And
let's
I'm very grateful to you for that because it's turned into a real special friendship
yeah.
as well. And when we're in the careers that we're in, sometimes it's hard to find people that you can trust and that believe in you, and I feel that about you. And I think because you've been so supportive of me, I believe in myself more because of that. So
Yeah.
I just really want to thank you for that. You're a kind and generous person on top of being very successful, and I hope that you get that credit too, that people see you for who you are.
Well, thank you, Amiria. And
You're
if
welcome.
once you catch me in real estate, let's do another one of these things, like a little check
Okay.
in. Like, oh, you just passed me. We'll do another
Okay.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
cool. Well,
All
thank you
right.
a
Thank
lot
you,
for
Travis.
getting on this thing, Amiria.
Okay, thank you. See you soon.